Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I was to be married in July. 2 months ago, I came home from a work trip to find my ex-fiance in bed with my best friend's sister. I kicked him out, canceled the wedding, warned him I would get rid of his stuff if he didn't come get it all. Then weeks later, dumped it all on the curbside with a free sign. Sold or donated or dumped everything he gave me. And pawned the ring. I blocked him everywhere. Called the cops on him when he showed up, after I gave his stuff away, banging on my door. Called them again when he turned up at my workplace and made a scene. And called them on his family when they showed up en masse to plead his case. I didn't go scorched earth on ex-best friend's sister. I did tell her husband I caught her in bed with my ex. Last I heard, she'd been kicked out of the house and was back living with her parents. Ex-best friend tried talking me into giving them both a chance to explain. What? No. Then got angry at me for ruining her sister's relationship, called me petty and cold-hearted. So I kicked her to the curb too. I don't want dishonest people that are blasé about betrayal in my life. This encounter no doubt simmered under my skin until I unleashed on my parents. Maybe that's the reason, because it lingered, I was so harsh with them. Last week I met my parents for dinner. I took a date with me to the restaurant, hoping his being there would waylay any discussion about my failed engagement. My parents have been pressuring me to work things out with the ex. He's so sorry. I owe it to him to talk with him. Give him 5 minutes to explain himself. She meant nothing to him. He made a mistake. I'm cruel for shutting him out the way I have. How could I call the police on him? How could I do the same to his family, his parents? They're good people. They didn't deserve to be humiliated in that manner. He's having a rough time. He's depressed. Everybody is worried about him. He loves me, really loves me. He's learned his lesson. It's time to grow up and forgive him. No, my date's presence didn't stop them from bringing it all up again. I lost my cool. Asked my father if he expected me to give my ex a pass every time he sticks his D into anything that moves, like he does. I asked my mother how turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity works for her. How does she hold her head up while having lunch with women that have slept around with her husband for years? Is that the kind of men, the life she wants for me and my sister, for her daughters? I asked if they had any idea of the impact that knowledge had on me and my siblings growing up. Knowing that my dad was late home from work because he was screwing his secretary. Knowing work weekend was code for dirty weekend with a woman, not our mother. Did they not know why it was that of their 4 children, I'm the only one that still talks to them? Do they not question why they were not invited to my brother's weddings? Why they have never met either of my brother's wives and children? Do they think my sister's silence is because she's being dramatic and throwing a tantrum? Really? I stood from the table, congratulated them on the loss of their last remaining child, and told them I hope their arrogance, willful blindness, and misery was a comfort to them in their last breaths. Then I left. My date, I should have saved him for a proper date rather than an FU to my parents, took me to the nearest bar, let me cry on his shoulder while I proceeded to get toe up from the flow up, then made sure I got home safely. The next day he messaged me to see if I was alive and sent a double cheeseburger, large fries, and a large Sprite over with DoorDash. I didn't block my parents, but I haven't heard from them. It's been a week, and I've calmed down enough to feel regret. Not for what I said, but because I can see the looks on their faces when I made my final farewell. I crushed them, hurt them, especially my mother. Despite their faults, and there are many, I love my parents. I don't like knowing I hurt them. I'm feeling a lot of guilt about it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've yet to read all the comments, but from what I've seen so far, I think some details need to be cleared up. My date knew we were going to have dinner with my parents. He asked me out that morning. I told him my plans for the evening and jokingly asked if he wanted to come along. I didn't expect him to say yes. I then informed him I wasn't serious, and anyway, it would probably be a little uncomfortable. And he said if needed, he could post bail. So there you go. He did not enter that restaurant unaware of potential drama. OP did the right thing. If OP's mother wants to be in a marriage full of betrayal and infidelity, her problem. But her problems affected OP and her brothers and sisters too. Maybe now they realize what impact their behavior has on OP. Hopefully OP's mother realizes that she didn't hold the family together, and father realizes that he did not only have an impact on his wife's life, but also that of his children. Looks like OP's parents are trying to get OP to replicate the same unhealthy patterns they have in their relationship. OP deserves better than that. Also, they say once a cheater, always a cheater. Do you agree with it, guys? And now let's hear the community's opinion. English Birdie says, not the a-hole. Well, maybe to the date, but he seemed to take it well. Good for you for not taking back a cheater. What's wrong with all these people who think you should have? Not So Religious Now says, not the a-hole. So many people say be the bigger person, but that's just straight up BS. They want you to turn a blind eye to betrayal, but no. Some of us find that to be a complete deal breaker. I'm with you 100%. Cut them all out of your life, because what's more important is your mental well-being and not giving closure or forgiveness towards those that hurt you. As for your parents, they made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences of their terrible actions. Also, your date sounds like a good person. Regardless of how that turns out, he stood by you and gave you comfort food. That's a big plus in my book. Magdovis says, that date is an awesome bloke. Going for dinner was above and beyond. Letting you get drunk and then getting you home was good. And then he sent you food? He sounds like an upgrade. I, female 24, found out a few weeks ago my long-term partner, male 24, had slept with my sister twice whilst I was pregnant. He has relentlessly claimed it was an accident. I don't understand how you can accidentally have S with your fiance's sister and then date her whilst trying to mend our relationship for our child, which I have been open to the fact I will allow him in our child's life, but I will not be in his, as the bridges are burnt beyond repair. Anyway, my sister has tried to remain active in my pregnancy, but also my nephew, her son, male 11, who I'll call K. I have full custody of K due to her mental breakdown and D misuse after her partner died. He is aware of his real mom, but due to me raising him, he tends to call me mom. A couple days ago, it was my nephew's birthday. I invited my sister, as I always do, as she is his bio parent, but also my ex, as he's played an active role in K's life. He's been around from the day he was born and has a bond with him. He asked for him to be there too. My personal circumstances and relationships will not impact my nephew's relationships, as they are separate from mine. Anyway, not everyone at his party was aware of the current situation, as I've tried to keep it under wraps and private for K and my sanity, and I don't want the stress of dealing with questions and other things. My sister broke down at his birthday. I removed K as quickly as I could, but she was screaming it wasn't fair for me to keep her son and her niece away from her. If I'm honest, I'm sick of being the villain in her life, and I snapped and calmly told her, it wasn't fair for you to break my home by sleeping with my partner and then dating him to create your own home. But I hope you know a house built on another woman's tears will not stand. You'll lose him the same way you got him. He's your problem now. You could hear Kay scream and cry, claiming that she, my sister, isn't his mom to a family member who had taken him, and he since refused to see her. Most people were taken aback when I said what I said to my sister, as I told the majority that we ended the relationship amicably, but I'm no longer embarrassed and ashamed. I've had support from this, and people are standing by me and the kids. However, people have said I shouldn't have said it, and I'm alienating Kay from his real mother, even though I've done everything in my power for them to retain a relationship. But I can no longer deal with her outbursts, and need to put mine and Kay's feelings first, rather than hers as well as my own family. My mother has threatened to call social services if I do not allow Kay to see his mom, regardless of his feelings, and has called me a selfish brat who ruins and poisons whatever I touch, to which I've ceased contact after that final comment. I don't even know what is right or wrong anymore, but I'm trying my best with the cards given. Am I the a-hole? If OP has full custody, then OP is legally in the clear, and any contact with his bio mom is up to OP and him. Also, OP is not required to keep other people's poor behavior a secret, especially when they use said behavior to cudgel you. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Beardman Michael says, not the a-hole. What a whirlwind mess to be caught up in. Your sister sounds extremely troubled to say the least. This entire situation seems volatile enough that you will want to involve lawyers to protect yourself and to protect the child. I could see this getting so much worse before it gets better. Good luck and best wishes to you. Certain Thought 531 says, protect your children, period. Not the a-hole. Your mother and anyone else whining about this can go suck a cactus. Protecting the children is the priority, and you're a wonderful mother to your children. You went as far as to allow them to keep a connection for the child's sake, and yet she tried to take advantage of it. Well, this was a privilege, and not a right. Time to cut them off. Don Shakar says, not the a-hole. Your sister is not Kay's real mother. She didn't raise him. She doesn't have custody over him. He calls you mom. You have every reason to prioritize his well-being, and that includes protecting him from your sister. The fact that she gave birth to him doesn't give her rights over him, and certainly doesn't give her the right to traumatize him. Your mother seems to be favoring your sister over you and Kay, to the point that she doesn't care if Kay is upset, as long as her golden child gets what she wants. I would contact social services, as well as a lawyer who deals with family struggles and child custody, and ask them how to act to protect Kay. My sister and I have always been close. Despite the small age gap, she acted like my second mother, so I never doubted her in anything. Let's call her Jane. My husband, let's call him Bob, and I met at uni. I was 20 and he was 23. He excelled in academics, sports, and looks, and was well known around campus because of that. So obviously I had a crush on him. Jane also attended the same uni. Because I was new, she included me into her big circle of friends, and he was a part of that. I never made a move because I respected Jane and her friends. I didn't want to cause any trouble or make things awkward. She meant the world to me. Eventually, though, Bob and I became close friends. I grew to like him more. I also noticed that Jane rarely interacted with him, which was odd considering she was close to almost everyone in her circle. But I never said anything. I did end up telling her I liked him, though. She told me not to get my hopes up because he wasn't interested in any relationship. I was crushed, but tried to see him as a friend. He ended up confessing to me on my 21st birthday, and we began dating, which obviously resulted in marriage, and here we are now. During the entire time we were dating, Jane started to distance herself from me. We did have a talk about it when Bob and I first started dating, and I told her I'd break up with him if she wasn't comfortable with it, considering he's her friend. But she rejected the idea. She hugged me and said she was happy for me, so I took her word for it. She still distanced herself, though. Her husband, boyfriend at the time, we'll call him Jim. He didn't attend uni, but his dad had a small construction business that he works at. Jim's a good man. He did everything for Jane, but due to our culture, women can't leave the family house until marriage. So Jane and I still lived with our parents then. And when Jim had saved up enough money to buy a house, he proposed to Jane and she said yes. Fast forward a year, and Bob proposed. I said yes. Up until now, all Jane had done was distance herself from me. But when I sat my family down and told them the news, she cried. I thought she was crying from happiness, until my mom told me I should have taken my sister's feelings into consideration before telling them. It was odd. It seemed like no one was happy. My mom took Jane to her room, but my dad stayed. He told me that Jane was having a hard time with Jim. I believed them. Since then, Jane distanced herself more from me. When I tried speaking to her, she'd reply curtly, and when I brought it up with my mom, she said that she's going through a hard time, so I shouldn't make it worse. So I left her alone. That was until Bob confessed that Jane had been texting him consistently for the past few weeks. He showed me the texts. She'd ask if she could call or meet him. She'd also attempt to text him late at night. The last one was when she sent him photos of her in revealing dresses and asked him to choose the prettiest. That's when he decided to tell me about it. Before anyone says anything, no, Bob didn't lead her on. His texts were dry and, frankly, if I wasn't so upset with my sister, I'd say rude. He felt uncomfortable, but decided to put up with it because she was sister. He also admitted that Jane had confessed to him years ago, but he had rejected her. It felt like everything was falling into place when he told me that. I was so hurt by her. I immediately confronted her when I got home. I thought she'd at least be ashamed, but she said that I stole him from her. What's worse is that my mom sided with her. I've always had a feeling she was my mom's favorite, but she was my favorite too. It made sense. Everyone loved Jane. I loved her too, but she betrayed me in the worst way possible. She even said she hated me and didn't want to see me again. No one sided with me, so I packed my things and left. My dad told me that I shouldn't leave because it's not appropriate for an unmarried girl to leave her parents' house. My mom even called me a W for leaving to go to Bob's place. That hurt a lot. It took a long time for me to get over what they said. When I think about it, it still stings. Bob and I lived together before marriage. I also cut contact with my family, and Bob and I got married without inviting anyone from my side, aside from a few close relatives. It was a lovely wedding, by the way. But a week ago, my cousin told me Jane had her wedding. I guess she went ahead with it. Today, though, Bob showed me a message he got on Instagram from her. He hadn't seen it because it was in the request section, but it dated back to a week ago. She confessed to him again and told him she'd make him happier than me if he gave her the chance to. I'm upset, really upset. He screenshotted it and blocked her and asked if it was okay to send it to Jim, but I said no. I don't know why. Jim deserves better, but I just don't want to deal with her anymore. I can't take it. I feel so guilty to keep this away from Jim. However, I don't want this to blow up in my face, especially when Bob and I have been living so peacefully now. Winterfront 1431 says, "Wow, she is desperate, and you can't steal him from her if he didn't want her. He had years before you to pursue something with her, but he never did. He really should set her straight and then block her." Carolina Mama 2015 says, "You said it yourself. Jim deserves better. You already don't talk to your family. What blow-up are you expecting if you tell Jim? She's gonna hurt him in the long run." Level OK 2089 says, "Not the a-hole, but please tell Jim. He's another victim in this and stuck being settled for.